Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning from wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Proof of Work. I'm your host, Gerald, aka the Crypto Oracle, and Nick is back. How is the foot, Nick?
The foot is getting better. This is now week 6, so it says like
Nice.
you have like 2 to 3 months before you're like really back to normal. But it's much better than a few weeks ago.
Nice. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Let's thank our sponsors at Quantum Expeditions. If you aren't familiar with quantum economics or quantum Quantum Expeditions is taking unused energy or AKA wasted energy and taking that back and then turning it into usable energy as electricity and then mining Bitcoin. Currently, they are doing methane flare mining off of some oil fields in West Texas, and they're going to start to do some off-grid mining in the near future. Keep your ears open for that. Also want to thank Shieldfolio. Shieldfolio is one of the best seed phrase books in the business. It's waterproof. They're working on a fireproof one as well. But the most amazing thing is you write your seed phrase with an ultraviolet marker. So if anyone gets a handle of they can't just write down your seed phrase. Everything looks blank until you view it under a UV light. You can get a discount for 20% off using the Bitcoin Live 20 code. And finally, I want to thank Deorganized Media and all the people and content creators doing shows on the Bitcoin Live network. Alrighty, today's show is Bitcoin doesn't need you for adoption. And what's funny is I was just in QE Spaces, and right after I said that was the title of the show, Monty Greenspan chimed in. He said he was in a conference in like 2018 or 2019, I think it was. And the person on the panel is like, "What does Bitcoin need from you to do better?" And he's like, "Doesn't need anybody." And I was like, "Yeah, correct." And why is that? It's because it's thousands of years ahead of where oil and gas were, right? It's 1,000 years ahead of where gold and silver are today, right? It took thousands and thousands of years for gold to become, plus $4,000 an ounce, which I said years ago when people were saying, "Oh, it's going to 10,000 ounce." I was like, 3,500 to 4K is the top. I'm like, just look at some charts, people. This is basic charting 101, right? And guess what? We showed those charts on the show, and I said, this is the top. It's going down from here. And it did exactly what we said. And good job on getting rid of some of your gold there, Nick.
But there's still some people out there who think it might go to 30K or something.
It might hit some insane number for like a couple of weeks in the future. But that's like, then that's peak gold, right? Like that's the peak gold and that's the death of gold, right? Like I called a couple years ago when we saw oil hit what? It was like 150 a barrel, something like that, close to that in certain markets. I said, this is peak oil and this might be the death of oil. And that's fast forward today, even though we're sidetracking from what the show's about. This is where we are today. This whole conflict in the Strait of Hormuz is to reprice oil. And when you reprice oil, you're repricing the dollar index. And when you're repricing the dollar index, you're messing with the bond market. But at the same time, when the bond market goes down, what happens? All these people that hated on U.S. Securities go, "Oh, I want to buy some bonds." I want to buy some short to mid-term bonds. And if the markets are really swinging, people will buy the 30-year bonds, right? And that's what's going on, right? This whole move is to defend the petrodollar and protect the US dollar because of the BRICS nations' attack against the dollar over the last decade, right? I know a lot of people think Donald Trump's a moron, but he's not, right? Like, yes, he's a blowhard. I will say he's a blowhard, but he's not an idiot. He understands that if the dollar doesn't remain supreme, it doesn't just hurt America, it hurts China, it hurts India, it hurts Iran, it hurts Iraq, it hurts literally almost every country in the world if the US dollar goes down. Even though the BRICS nations would like that, they know in the back of their heads that it would be a very hard, maybe 10 to 20 years for them as well to get out of that hole. And we're get back to the topic at hand. Bitcoin doesn't need us, right? It's light years ahead. Cue up that video of, I think I said the first one. It was like, I think the third or fourth one I sent you. I know I sent you like 30 links. Sorry.
Yeah.
I sent you any links.
I'm gonna sort through it. What is it about?
So you know what? I think I can look at my bookmarks and I can tell you right now. Let's see. It's the one. Let's see.
Because you sent a lot.
I know. I sent a whole bunch, and I will give you more reference, a better reference point as well. I'll tell you who it's from, and then I will tell you the length so you can see that. Oh my gosh, sorry. I was at the bottom of them, not at the top where I should be. All right, here it is. Wow, I did send a lot, sorry. Okay.
The one from Joe Nakamoto?
No, that one we want to watch kind of like halfway through. Bitcoin can be used anywhere.
Documenting Bitcoin?
I think it's that one. Yes, I think so.
With brands. Bitcoin brands are finally cool.
Yeah, that one, that's not the one I wanted to show first, but that was one of the first ones anyway, so that's fine. And I'll find the other one.
Yep, I'll pull it up.
Thank you. You know what? I should just start sending them as we're doing it, so then I don't like bombard you with a million. Sorry, we should have.
It was too much to open all at once.
Yeah, you're like, holy crap, bro.
Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're putting Bitcoin into the background of everyday life.
Incorporate Lightning into our products. So our main products are Cash App and Square.
We launched a product, the Square Bitcoin Payments product. Square sellers are able to accept Bitcoin at the point of sale.
Nice.
Yeah, so again, if you're not aware, Square did a presentation at Bitcoin conference, and one new Square terminal's going live taking Bitcoin payments, or I think they're taking their first Bitcoin payment like every 30 seconds. They're at 830 to 840,000 Square terminals in the United States that are accepting Bitcoin. Since that was a good segue, there's, you know what, I'll just start resending them to you so you don't have to like sift through all those.
I think I found a video you probably wanted to play, the one from Bitcoin News about Atlantic.
Yes, them in Atlantic making the new video, correct, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, was just underneath that one. Okay, got it. This one.
That's it.
Electricity began as a spectacle, a spark in a laboratory, a novelty at a World's Fair.
Every kind of entertainment, old and new.
It changed the world when it was wired into it, standardized, distributed, embedded into cities and homes. That's how foundational technologies evolve, from experiment to integration. Digital currencies emerged in a wave of experimentation. A decade of flashes, new coins, sudden surges, but sparks don't light a room. It was Bitcoin that established the steady current early. Fixed supply, predictable issuance, decentralized from the start. And once power becomes dependable, you stop treating it like a novelty. These are the new rules of Bitcoin. Rule number 1. Bitcoin is not what you think.
When people think about Bitcoin, they think it's something they can't understand. I would challenge them to think about, well, what do they understand about how the traditional US monetary system works? I actually think that's way more complicated.
What started with a single light bulb became cities, networks, entire industries. Not because someone was in charge of it, but because the underlying laws never changed.
It depends entirely on what you mean by a new idea.
Bitcoin is a neutral currency for the internet era.
It is an asset that has no issuer, that no government controls. There's no central bank to debase it. There's a hard, verifiable cap of 21 million coins, and it's a decentralized network.
There are many things that separate Bitcoin from crypto.
It came organically and was released to the world to be rejected or embraced only on its merits, and it's grown to being the #1 cryptocurrency with the largest market cap for a reason.
Like electricity, Bitcoin is moving from a novel idea to necessity. Because, rule number 2, Bitcoin is long-term thinking.
Bitcoin is a savings technology. Hyperinflation is devaluing currencies all around the world. Any new savings technology is going to change how people are habituated to thinking about their future.
Every single year, the central bank targets an inflation rate of about 2%. So if you get a 2% raise, you got no raise at all.
Bitcoin is a revival of the concepts behind commodity money. Commodity money is useful because of properties it has that people deem valuable.
Thinking about Bitcoin for the long term, it's kind of like gold, land, or real estate. When we think about the kinds of things that pass on to our children or grandchildren, we're usually trying to pass on something rare or exclusive.
Bitcoin is increasingly showing up in retirement accounts, in trusts, and in estate planning structures.
We focus on Bitcoin because we believe it will be the dominant monetary asset in our future.
Which brings us to rule number 3. Bitcoin is true ownership.
We no longer live in an ownership society because the vast majority of our property is custodied for us by third-party intermediaries.
When you're accessing Bitcoin through a centralized intermediary, you're really abstracted from the experience of Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is. True Bitcoin ownership looks like holding your own keys. Once you start to own Bitcoin in any material amount, it's important to consider security. Collaborative custody and multi-signature technology is a lot like needing multiple keys to open a safe deposit box.
So instead of having one key that you could potentially lose, you distribute it into a series of keys so that you can keep your Bitcoin secure without a single point of failure.
You're able to distribute those keys across multiple parties, and furthermore, it makes it easier for inheritors or next of kin in order to pass on the Bitcoin when the time comes.
Collaborative custody is a mechanism for securing your property without giving full trust to any intermediary.
We don't realize how many institutions get involved to create what's ultimately a very complex and opaque system. Bitcoin offers an alternative, an open monetary system available to everyone around the world.
It's really how money worked for almost all of history. Bitcoin really returns us to those roots, and that experience is something that we try to preserve at Unchained for our clients and within our model.
When something moves from experiment to everyday life, its impact doesn't stay contained. That's what happened with electricity. Now Bitcoin is entering that stage, inside portfolios and real financial lives. It's woven into long-term wealth, and how you structure it doesn't just affect you, it echoes for generations to come.
Boom.
Nice.
Yeah, that was amazing. Obviously, I think towards the end, they got a little too technical, but not for us, but for the laity, yes. But yes, Bitcoin doesn't need you, right? Let's segue into that. There was that video, I think it was 2 down from there. It was under the Eric Trump one. The one from, I think it was them showing somebody paying with Bitcoin at the conference.
Is that the square one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, wait. Got it here. So I'm being support today.
Yeah, sorry. And like I said, I'll try and send them as we go, so you don't have to search for them. They'll be right there for you. The next one I got queued up for you.
This one, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
800,000 square merchants now accepted.
Yep. Yeah, it's a short one. But here, I'm going to send you that next link. But this is why this is important. So as you can see on this little map of, I think it's Southern California, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yes, correct. Southern California, you can see these bubbles aren't individual bubbles, right? There's like 90, 83, right? If you zoom in on some of these yellow dots, you can see that, yeah, right? 83, 95, 22. So as you get closer, if you're looking at the map on like Cash App or something like that, I'm pretty sure that's what this is from. Yeah, 203 in Los Angeles, right? This is what I was trying to explain to one of the younger associates at where I work at, why stacking sats is so vital. Here it is. It doesn't need you for adoption. The merchants realize, wait a second, I don't have to go buy Bitcoin. I can just sell some of my goods or services and someone will pay me in Bitcoin. And then I don't have to spend my own paper money. Oh my gosh, brilliant. So this is why Bitcoin doesn't need you. And what I tried to explain to her, I said, if you want to get on top of this inflation that is not going anywhere, as we heard in the last video, and the banks have adjusted their ratings. It's not 2%. It's like 3 to 4%, right? Let's be very clear. It's higher than what they're saying that they would protect us from. So they're already lying to you right there, right? If you want to get on top of this inflation, I said to her, you have to be stacking sats. Like I made that video 2 summers ago. It's imperative that you start saving, even if it's like $5 or $10 every other month.
And we lost you.
Holy moly. We just like, I've never seen us go all dark like that. That was crazy. And why you must be saving in sats is because it's coming, right? Like we've already seen this. Sheets, right? We showed a couple, like I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes ago. Maybe it was like, it's probably like a month or so ago because of the little time off we had. But it was only a few episodes ago we're showing Sheets is like, once they start taking Bitcoin all the, like every day for payments, 50% off. Now it's probably not 50% off for fuel, but it's probably 50% off for any of the, you know, convenience store stuff, right? Snacks, t-shirts, all the other stuff that's in the convenience store, etc. 50% off, right? That's going to eventually go to airlines, which we already heard what? Oh, is that UAE's airlines are taking Bitcoin, right? So these huge discounts are coming, right? And if you're holding dollars, they're like, oh, it's $1,000. If you're paying cash or you're paying USDC, it's $1,000. Oh, you're paying in Bitcoin? It's $500. Do you see the difference? Like, and this is already happening, right? And this is another one of my predictions from years back. I said these huge discounts, once the business world figures it out, it's going to happen. The same thing's going to happen to property. The same thing's going to happen to jewelry, diamonds, art, etc. Oh, you're paying in Bitcoin? Oh yeah, 50, 70% off, right? Like, because the value of Bitcoin is going to keep doing to this. And most assets value does this, right? Unless it's a scarce asset like art or a supercar or a handful of other, you know, a baseball card, there's video games, if they only made a select cartridge amount, etc. Those things value goes up, but the majority of assets that are made in the millions and billions, asset value goes down. So you have to weigh everything out, and this is the dilemma that Michael Saylor came across, right? Everything else he figured out was going to do this. The only thing he figured out that was going to do this against everything else out in the world is Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and this is how it is.
Scarcity, digital scarcity, commodities, energy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Good
and
stuff.
that's the problem with the web 2.0 is that Google, Facebook, all of these services are free, right? They made all of these digital content multipliable for free, right? And these things take compute, right? And that's where we're at. I didn't share the other article. I should have shared that. I totally forgot to share that article, but this huge software engineer came out the other day saying exactly what I'm saying. We're running out of compute because of AI. And I was like, yes. Do you realize how many connected devices the United States of America has? And then you're going to be like, oh, build another AI center, be able to build another AI center, build another
I'm
AI
actually
center.
working on 2 articles, and one will probably drop tomorrow, and that sort of ties into, exactly what we're talking about right now. So watch this space.
Yeah, again, it's I just shared it. It's not in my bookmarks, but I just shared it. You just retweeted it. The UE is literally, yeah, you might be able to pull it up because it's probably in your history.
Here we go.
Yeah, so literally they're
right.
Yeah, they're being accused of wasting 20 billion euros on AI computing dreams, right? This is what I've been warning about for almost 18 months now, close to 2 years, as from Volkswagen to the EU to all these companies. I just saw this private citizen donate, it was either to Stanford or MIT, like $400 million for AI. And I was like, oh my gosh, stop doing this. This is why. You're like throwing money at a black hole and you're like crossing your fingers. You think the Bitcoiners are nuts. This is way more nuts, literally. And I don't know how many times I have to say this. AI is inflationary times like 1,000 against Bitcoin's deflationary by 1,000x, right? And that's why you have to have both. If we don't have both, this becomes very problematic, right? It's just we go back to like the early 1900s when Tesla and Edison were fighting over DC and AC, which is better, which is more important. Guess what? We needed both, right? We need batteries and we needed AC, the flowing current of AC, right? We had to have both to make this future economy work. It's the same thing. If we don't have Bitcoin, we can't have AI. If we don't have AI, we can't protect Bitcoin, right? Because that's the one thing people don't understand is even though I'm very staunch defender of Bitcoin and I'm very critical of AI, I understand that the cybersecurity effects of AI cybersecurity will become essential to defending Bitcoin, right? At some point in the near future, whether they come up with a BIP, which already companies have done, right? We talk about Aqua, right? Aqua's already future-proofed their wallet. So if you have a Lightning wallet and it's not Aqua, you're dumb, right? And again, there was this other firm from a couple weeks ago. They cracked a 15-bit key. Let me repeat that: 15-bit key, not 256-bit. 15-bit. The orders of magnitude are a lot, right? So all these people are like, look, they did it. No, they didn't. You have no clue what you're talking about when you think a 15-bit encrypted key is anywhere near as strong as a 256-bit encrypted key. And when they come out with quantum encryption, which there's already multiple teams working on, because I'm a nerdazoid and I try and stay on top of this technology stuff because that's my job, right? When quantum cryptography comes out, you won't be able to hack nothing, right? So all these people that are afraid of the quantum computers, the quantum computers will build quantum cryptography and that will protect everything, right? Let's be clear. And you're worried about Bitcoin getting hacked. No, it will hack everything else that is not encrypted first, right? Let me just use a perfect analogy from the 90s, right? Remember those things called the club and you put it in your steering wheel, right?
Yeah.
And basically,
yeah.
It basically, if someone broke into your car or was trying to steal your car, they couldn't activate your steering wheel. So eventually they wouldn't break your window, right? They would see the club and that was the deterrent. The same thing is true with encryption. Quantum computing will, if a bad actor gets access to the right compute and the right tools, they're going to attack everything that has no encryption first, because it's like literally taking kid from a candy, right? Literally. So why would I go waste all this amazing compute and all these amazing AI tools that I have at my, at my fingertips to go hack the toughest system in the universe? I'm going to look for the easiest systems, and those are most of the Western banking systems. Full stop. Right?
And there's also more to gain, right? I mean,
yeah.
The fruits are bigger also.
Yeah, there's databases that they could hack into that are way more valuable than trying to waste all that compute. Because first off, you got to steal a quantum computer, right? You got to break into Rigotti or you got to break into Google, right? And either hack the computer remotely, right? Or you have to physically steal this massive quantum computer, which like someone should just steal this idea, just put it in an AI, and you're going to steal a quantum computer. The AI is going to be like, this is probably almost impossible, but let's try and make this work. And yes, it is like virtually impossible. So all these people screaming at the tops of their lungs, like quantum computers will break Bitcoin. Quantum computers will break your bank account in 5 seconds because you have a 4-digit PIN that can be smashed with a quantum computer in about 0.2 nanoseconds. So stop it with this FUD. I'm sick of hearing about it. Full stop. The next little video clip I wanted to share is that one from Eric Trump talking. Yeah. Because this is where we're at. Like, this is why Bitcoin doesn't need you, right? It doesn't need you one iota. And you're still early. All these people is like, oh, it's so expensive, I'm late. No, you're not. Here's why.
Here we go. This one, right?
Yep.
JP Morgan was crapping all over Bitcoin 18 months ago, saying it was a joke asset. And it's really interesting. Now they're allowing people to take out home mortgages against their Bitcoin holdings at JP Morgan. This happened in a period of 18 months, my friends. JP Morgan was crapping
so it's a short clip. But yeah, again, right? And I said this to the young lady at work, she's in her 20s. I said, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are already creating loans for Bitcoin mortgages, right? So again, Bitcoin doesn't need you. It is light years ahead of any other commodity that has ever come before the human race, right? I don't know how many times I'm going to scream from the mountaintop. It is thousands of years ahead in the future already, compared to gold, compared to oil, compared to silver, compared to platinum. We've just scratched the surface, right? Like, it is a monetary protocol, right? It is an energy protocol. Those two alone, the amount of capital that's going to flow into it is going to be in the tens to hundreds of trillions of dollars, right?
I think
this is just a fact.
You and me, we also did a show on Bitcoin is oil or better than oil.
Yes, correct.
I forgot the title, but basically Bitcoin is the scaffolding, like, to level up like our civilization to on the Kardashev scale, right? We're going to a level 1 civilization, and you need something like Bitcoin to make that happen. So yeah, I agree.
100%. And that's what people don't realize, is that they think it is, as Peter Schiff would say, that, this is like the Beanie Babies of the digital universe. And it's like, no, bro, that's meme tokens. Let's be clear on this point. Bitcoin is a whole nother behemoth, right? It is the hardest asset in the world ever created, right? The people, we talked about this on the last episode, the tangible people that have to be able to touch everything that they own. I literally tell them, like, you're on Insta, you're on Facebook, you're on Reddit, you're on all of these things are all virtual things that you interact with and have huge market caps. Bitcoin is no different, and it's again way ahead of all of these other commodities that have ever come before us. And it just keeps moving ahead and doesn't care about what you're doing, your opinion, your attitudes, your politics. It doesn't care. 800,000 Square terminals now receive Bitcoin payments. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are taking, Bitcoin as collateral for mortgages for Bitcoin homes, right? This is the future of finance. I don't know how other to say this to people.
And that's why they use the honey badger, right, as the mascot.
Yeah.
Bitcoin doesn't care.
It doesn't care. It doesn't care. You can keep spitting at it. You could attack it like a cobra. You can spit your venom all you want. It's going to grab you by the neck and shake you dead, because that's what Bitcoin does. It makes you it's an ego killer, right? When it comes to technology, finance, intelligence, it really is a litmus test. And that's when I realized that a lot of people were wrong about Donald Trump, even though I still think he's a blowhard and he still says things that I think are controversial and I don't agree with a lot of them. When he changed his position on Bitcoin, that's when I realized he was a real thinker and not one of these, KOL insiders, right? That just repeat the going line that week, right? When he changed his mind on Bitcoin, I was like, wow, he's actually somebody that uses his, critical thinking on his own. And that's very different from most of our leaders. And I think that's why he gets most of the pushback, is because he pisses off a lot of people on the left and he pisses a lot of people off on the right. And he's more moderate than people really want to point out, right? And that's what I think scares a lot of the insiders, whether it's the left or the right. He's spilling the beans and it's like, you can't say that, you can't tell people that.
I also think in this current political environment, it is almost impossible to be a moderate, right? You are sort of forced into immoderate positions in order to survive. And especially if you take that many controversial standpoints as Trump does, right? He's sort of shaking up the entire bee nest, right? So every like you said, left, right, everybody is against him because Bitcoin demolishes JP Morgan's power base, and a lot of other power bases and deep state actors are, terrified, of course, for these changes that he represents. His team, right? He's not doing it by himself, but he's the chief, the leader in chief.
Yeah, no, again, and when I saw him make that change, I realized he's not what everyone painted him out to be, right? And that's where you have to turn on your own critical thinking, whether it's about Trump or Bitcoin. Obviously, I want you to focus on the Bitcoin side, because he's not fully invested, right? He's about 2/3 to 3/4 invested, financially and mentally, but until he realizes that it unlocks this green economy, right? He's still anti-wind, he's still anti-solar, and I get why, I understand why, but as Daniel Batten has stated many times, and we've stated many times, if you want this ESG economy work, it only works with Bitcoin, right? Yep. It only works with a proof of work coin, I should say, and Bitcoin is leading the pack. And this only thing coming close when it comes to hash rate is Litecoin. A lot of people are on the Monero bandwagon, and I get why, for privacy. That is going forward, and that was a huge discussion we just had in the last spaces when it comes to AI and privacy and AI and your rights to your own personage, right? Like to your rights to your memories and your likeness and being. And I just said in the space that that'll come down to your will, right? Do you will, if you're a celebrity or an influencer, are you willing that to the estate? Are you willing that to the family? Because if you are giving them the rights to either, share, the family can share with the the digital AI version of you and to have some personal time, or they're going to expand in the future and make new projects. That will come down to between that person's legal team and themselves. Do they put that in the will? And I think we'll start to see cases like that come out in the next 10 years as some of these older celebrities who are icons sell their digital rights to OpenAI or Grok or Claude or the like, whoever. Or like we saw from a few months back where Disney's huge lawsuit pretty much took out Sora, right? And I was one of the first analysts to say, be very careful. We're treading in a whole bunch of legal gray area. And this is one of the bad things about AI is that, yeah, it can do all these cool things, but whose toes you got to step on to allow this to happen, right? Like, you're violating X amount of content creators' rights, or if you're in Disney's case, it's their proprietary characters, right? But again, let's get it back to the hand. Bitcoin and AI are the future of money and finance. And we need Bitcoin to grid balance, and we need AI to do the cybersecurity, right? Like, that's the main thing of why AI becomes super important in the future, is that it becomes the ninja of cybersecurity. Because now we have everyone and their grandmom, good actors, bad actors, building tools, building content, right? From Clawbot to the AI social media site. I forgot the name of that one. But all these products are being built. And obviously there will be a lot of good actors making good products and good tools, but there will be a subsection of people making stuff that's bad, right? That's just how it is. And this is the same thing with Bitcoin. There will be, 80 to 90% of people saving and utilizing the Bitcoin network are good actors. It's only like 10 to 15% that are trying to either hack Bitcoin or do a double spend or whatever they're trying. Oh yeah, and to bring up double spends, someone tried to do a double spend on the Litecoin network a few weeks ago, and everyone said like, "Oh my gosh, see, it's all messed up, blah blah blah." Yeah, they fixed it in about 5 minutes. Yeah. So nice try. I hope you enjoyed wasting all that money doing nothing.
They didn't stop or hold the blockchain, right? Like they did with XRP or with Solana.
No, it did not stop the chain. They had to do a reorg of about 13 blocks, and then the Litecoin Foundations, and somebody alerted the Litecoin Foundation and saw that there was something wrong in this one script, and they updated it. And it's just like everything else. Same thing with Bitcoin, same thing with Litecoin. You have to be constantly doing your updates, right? And that's imperative when we're talking about money and blockchain. If you let your node get out of date, this is why I run away from Ethereum, because Ethereum does too many willy-nilly updates, right? And if you do too, like Google and Apple does, well, if you do some of these updates, like I'll just give you a perfect example, right? This is why JavaScript is great for building stuff, but when you add a new feature, right? So the program I use at work, I'm not going to name the program because I don't want to get anybody mad or in trouble, but it's basically a point of sale terminal program, but it runs on JavaScript. So you want to add something, the devs, you could call them up. They're like, oh, we can add this button in like a couple of days, maybe a week or so. Awesome. However, they don't bug it out, right? They just add the new feature and then ship it to you, right? Well, guess what? It's creating this other glitch, and now I can't add like insurance. If I want to add insurance, this is creating this glitch in the insurance line. This is why Bitcoin fixes the update syndrome, right? You have to have consensus between so many nodes and so many miners, because miners usually run nodes, right? So if you don't have consensus between X amount of nodes, right, the change doesn't happen. The proposal, the BIP proposal gets voted on, and if nobody votes on it, it just dies, right? It just goes away eventually. And Google and Apple don't run that way. They're always doing updates. They're always changing UX, UI. And as soon as they do that, and they're like, look at this cool new button we built. Awesome, isn't it? And then they're like, oh shit, there's a security flaw. Shit, there's a security flaw. Shit, here's the patch. Do the patch. Please do the patch. Patch. And you're like, and most of the world hates this, right? Especially the older generations. You finally got them used to using this iPad, iPhone, Samsung, Galaxy, whatever the case may be, and then you change everything around on them. This isn't the supermarket. This isn't right. This isn't Safeway. This isn't Costco. Stop it with that crap. You're just pissing people off. They got used to how their mail works. They got used to how their phone works, and then you change it around, and you change it around, and you change it around. And then there's this big security hole. This is why Bitcoin doesn't do that, because if they made a change every 10 minutes, they would create this huge security vector that people would just poke their fingers into and take what they can from it, right? That's what's going on in all the MEV stuff right now, right? So if you're not familiar with MEV, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but look it up. And this is what makes Ethereum problematic, is that the Ethereum virtual machine is great until they do another huge, massive update. And then they do a huge, massive update. And then all these smart contracts that were behind that update, they need their nodes to update. And if those nodes don't update, well, here comes somebody along, and then they either attack the bridge, right, or they attack the contract. And that's the two biggest exploits that exist. And guess what? That means Binance Chain, Ethereum's network, all the sub chains that run L2s on Ethereum, all the L2s built on BNB, all of any wallets that have OX in the string, their hexadecimal address, if it has 0x in the front of it, the same thing applies, right? And that's millions and millions of wallets across the globe. And this is why I've said time and time again, I have problems with Ethereum. And the first time you lose a couple bucks in Ethereum, it's no big deal. As soon as you lose like $500 to plus more, you're like, and I lost. It was only like $300 or $400 on Binance Chain, but that was enough for me to be like, I'm not an ETH fanboy anymore. I'm sorry, I can't be. With the technical knowledge I have and the technical expertise I have, it's not worth my time and energy to come along one day for one of these DeFi platforms, be like, oh, the contract broke and all your funds are gone. Sorry, take care.
Did you share the one from that the Bitcoin reserve will be launched in 2 weeks or something? Did I see that come by?
The Bitcoin, what? Say that again.
The Bitcoin reserve, the US Bitcoin reserve.
Oh yeah, I think I shared that out like right at the end of Spaces. Here's one I did want to share real quick here. I'm resending that to you. This is huge. This is like literally the biggest story that nobody, I think me and maybe I think MattySats has talked about. This is the LightSpark Visa deal, right? Like this is massive. This is right up there with what Square is doing for their terminals. LightSpark and Visa are doing with literally you just download their app and they're like, yeah, you can literally start a business taking Bitcoin anywhere in the world and changing it into whatever local currency you want to. So it's literally, they've taken like Square and Strike and they made this new company, right? I think it's called LightSpark something. Let me see.
I got it.
Yeah, LightSpark. So again, I'm just going to read the tweet itself. We're thrilled to announce our partnership with Visa to enable stablecoin and Bitcoin-backed Visa debit cards across 100+ countries through LightSpark's grid platform. Financial institution, fintechs, and businesses can now offer their customers Visa cards funded by stablecoins and others on Solana, Base, Spark, Bitcoin via Spark or Lightning, fiat currencies including USD and Euro. euro. This means cardholders can spend their digital or fiat balances at 175 million plus Visa accepting merchants worldwide, seamlessly bridging on-chain accounts to everyday purchases. This is massive, right? Bitcoin doesn't need you. It keeps moving. Doosh, 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 doosh. And these aren't little teeny baby steps anymore. These are massive, huge steps Bitcoin is taking. And again, this is huge. The guy that started this company used to work for PayPal, right? Now he's the CEO of Lightspark, and this is massive. This is again, my head's blown because this is what they released at the Bitcoin conference this year. And this again, it's. Again, I know how many times I have to say is Bitcoin is light years in the future ahead of all of these commodities where they were in their infancy, right? If we go back to, let's go back to Jesus's time. Like, what was the main currency being used back then? It was like salt, and then whatever coin the Romans had, right? And then obviously the temple coin, right?
Yep.
So you had to convert. Whatever, like if the guy was taking salt, you converted it into the temple coins. If you had Roman coins, you converted it into the temple coins, right? So gold, even though gold was important back then, they weren't using gold, right? They were using some kind of debased token already, right? They were already starting to debase the commodities back then, right? And oh yeah. So, and I think this is true because of all the big news that's being shared. I think the biggest news story of the day that nobody's talking about is the E-Trade, which I think I shared with you. Let me yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's huge as well. But this is why I think that story is coming to fruition sooner than later. And that big story is, E-Trade's launching crypto trading. Surprise! I said Bitcoin was going to remain flat until the the Clarity Act gets passed, right? And we can see clearly if Morgan Stanley and E-Trade are launching crypto trading, they have a legal retainer, right, of probably 30 to 50 lawyers, maybe 100 lawyers deep. Do you think they got the green light if the Clarity Act isn't getting passed soon?
Yeah, and I think the issue from the Clarity Act that was sort of the biggest obstacle has been resolved, right? With the yield on stablecoins.
Yeah, and again, it's pure insanity where the banks think they can get away with paying us less than 1 to 3% interest, and then they're going to say, "Oh, but Coinbase can't pay interest on their digital version of the dollar." What? No, that's not how it works, bro. Again, just pure insanity coming from the banks, and the reason the banks want this is because they know all the money will leave the banks because they will offer a higher yield for digital dollars. And again, the pros of owning the digital dollars were, yes, you will get 5, 10, maybe even 20% at some point in the future. The bad point is we know that they're monitored. We know that they can be cordoned off. We know that they can be seized. And that's why I always tell people you must stick to proof of work technology. You must stick to Bitcoin and Litecoin. These are why these two cryptos are so vital. And I know people are like, don't like me talking smack on Ethereum because there's a lot of Ethereum fanboys out there. But this is why Ethereum lost me, is because they switched from proof of work to proof of stake. If Vitalik really was the visionary that some people think he is, then he would have realized that the proof of work model would reshape the energy industry, which Bitcoin is doing. And even though Litecoin is a smaller sector than Bitcoin mining, it is still the number 2 cryptocurrency mined behind Bitcoin because of its profitability. That's just the facts.
Also, with the stable coins and the Clarity Act and this sort of back and forth and tussle with Coinbase and JP Morgan. I think that's also, that ties also in with what we talked earlier about, all the enemies that Trump has. This whole change to stablecoins and Bitcoin, right? The biggest cartel in the world, the most powerful, biggest cartel in the world is the banking system, right? So if that's your enemy, then there will be a lot of heat coming your way.
Yeah, and I think the way the banks will be smart about this, obviously there'll be a whole bunch of banks that go out of business that don't adopt this technology, right? Let's be very clear. That will happen very quickly in the near future. But the smart banks, what do you think they'll do? They'll just buy a huge position, $1 billion of USDC, and they'll put it on Coinbase. Like, are you guys dummies? Like, come on. Like, this ain't rocket science. If you're afraid you're not going to make money, well, take your money and put your money where you don't think it should be, right? That's the real risk is put it into Coinbase, put it into Cash App, right? Like all of these companies are going to be offering very high yields for their dollar coin of whatever fashion it is, whether it's USDC, USDT, USAT, right? I think those are the three winners. We discussed that 3 or 6 months ago.
It also explains this centralization that we saw in the last 20 to 30 years of the banking system, having lesser banks and bigger banks, since they know that they're going out of business anyway, then, you want to centralize control, and then plus CBDCs and AI. So you don't need all those little lesser banks anymore, right? Because you can rule it as one single bank.
Yeah, and again, like we said, like a lot of these banks that don't adopt this technology, they will get left in the dust because Bitcoin's the leader. These stable coins, they're a necessary tool for the time being, but they get phased out too. And I've said for many, many moons that I don't think the unit of dollar goes away. I think it stays around as a measuring tool, just like 12 inches does in a lot of the world, right? It's dumb, but it's still a measuring stick. And I think that once we phase out paper dollars, and eventually we phase out digital dollars, the dollar will still be a unit of measurement. I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be around as long as we think, but it eventually gets phased out into Satoshis and Latoshis. And whatever other cryptos figure out the proof of work game and make it truly decentralized, because that's another thing that the proof of work model does, right? If you have all these nodes all around, whether that node has one miner or no miners, it's a decentralized network, right? When we get into proof of stake, even though there's a couple models that are decent, most of them have security problems, right? Most of them either have engineering problems and or security problems. And the ones that have both, they will be attacked and eventually fall into obsolescence, right? Perfect example is EOS. EOS was talked about for so many years, hype. And then I start doing my research and it's DPoS, right? So it's delegated proof of stake, and it had 21 block producers. And basically what started happening is the RAM started getting too expensive for the block producers. So then they had to, okay, oh, you're number 21 block producer, we're taking you out and we're putting this backup block producer, because they had funds, right? So now they were just playing this game of 3-card Monte with the block producers, and eventually that money's going to run out at some point, unless you're actually building applications and products and people are utilizing the network for what it was intended. And guess what? People aren't. Ethereum breaks through that model because more capital flowed in during the 2018 to 2022 ERC token craze and the NFT craze. And now we get past the NFT boom, and more and more people are finding holes in these smart contracts. And that's where until these smart contracts are, like I said, if they're on a ZK proof roll up on an L2, they're probably safe and secure, because nothing can fake the funk to the L1, right? That's very important. And that's when I think the Lightning Network explodes, right? If what is it, BIP 420 ever gets passed, I think that makes the Lightning Network fully Turing complete. And then we just see the Lightning Network grow by leaps and bounds. And I think Aqua has really been hammering in on making their wallet not only private, secure, and quantum resistant. This would, again, that's why I believe in them. I don't get any money from them. I just believe they are good actors in the space trying to put out a good product. And even though, when you do a transaction, they do take slivers, some Satoshis, it's very minimal compared to like Coinbase or crypto.com or one of the other exchanges. And that's the other thing. As all of these products and services come online, and we start to see these discounts and companies start to, put some of their, allocate some of their capital into Bitcoin, well, what starts to happen, right? We have the reverse effects of deflation where we go back to a commodity-based money and you get more of that product. You get a better quality product. Instead of them using more plastic, they're using more steel, right? They're using more copper. They're using more silver, right? They can make it more durable. The durable goods become more durable all around.
Sound money creates sound things, right? I mean,
yeah.
I still use a vacuum cleaner from like 60 years ago because it's still working. Because the money was better, right? So people
so they made a much harder durable good, right?
Yeah.
And the enshittification of the internet, we're going through that right now. The same thing applies as more and more of the Web 2.0 becomes crypto native. Those products and services start to become better and cheaper, right? And that's, just in the last year or so, like all of the algos are looking for authentic content. Well, here we are. This is as authentic as it gets.
We were being strip mined.
Yeah. Well, again, they don't, the whole everything looks polished and, looks like right out of a studio. There's an agenda there, right? There's people that have advertisers, investors, etc. Again, is it your perspective or is it someone else's perspective? And that's what I always try and tell people. That's why the algos are looking for more authentic content, is because when you do see that shiny room that person's in with the green screen background and their $500, Shure microphone, are they giving you good content, or are they doing this because they know they can make money off you, right?
Manufacturer's consent.
Yeah. So we always tell people we'll never ask you for money. So if anybody from
But we will accept it if you send it to us.
Oh yeah, we will accept crypto. You give out donations, heck yeah. But we will never DM you asking for Bitcoin or USDC or USDT. No one from the QE team, no one from the Bitcoin Live team, no one from the Deorganized Media team. So if you see that, again, we're just going to the basics, right? Most of the people that watch this show, yo, what's up? That watch this show wouldn't give money to a homeless people, right? But you'll give $10,000 of your Bitcoin to some guy in Cameroon. What? Hello. And you should give to homeless people. But I was just trying to use a perfect analogy. Like hundreds of people in New York walk by those people every day, but someone hits you up with an email from, Luxembourg talking about this new Bitcoin venture. You're all in, right? Like what? Like, come on. So don't do that, right? Here's another one, and I think we're just going to wrap it up after this little chart, because I think we've gone past just about an hour, or we're right there right now. But yeah, this is really massive, and this hammers home the point that I've been making, that Bitcoin is light years ahead of any other asset, commodity, money that's ever been created. And here is the chart right here, if you could zoom in. So this is E-Trade, Morgan Stanley's company, showing Bitcoin has risen much faster than other assets over the past 10 years. If we do this chart over the last 100 years, do you know how much big that bar on the left becomes? It becomes like literally the World Trade Center. And these become little shrubs, maybe grass, right? And that's a fact. That's why Bitcoin doesn't need you. Look at the charts, don't lie. It's light years ahead of any other asset, commodity, or monetary system ever invented. And you sitting on the sidelines going, I don't want to learn something new. Oh, technology's evil. Rah, rah, rah. I can't touch it. Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't care. Bitcoin doesn't give one ish about your opinion at all. And this chart proves it right here. That's all we got for you today. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks to my co-host and producer, Nick, for putting up with all my links. Sorry for drowning you in links today. I want to thank all our sponsors, Quantum Economics, Quantum Expeditions, Shieldfolio, the team at Deorganized Media, and all the people at Bitcoin Live Network. We want to thank you for sharing, because the only way all of these new people can learn is from people like us, putting out good, authentic content that not only is trying to get likes, right? I would please like our stuff, because I usually don't ask for that. We want you to learn stuff, right? We want you to learn. We want you to be ahead of the curve. That's the whole point of this show, is that we want you to understand, yes, putting some of your money in Ethereum might make you thousands of dollars in the next couple of years, but putting some of your money into Bitcoin will set people up behind you for life, right? Bitcoin. What's that?
It will set you free.
Oh, yeah. And it will liberate you from a lot of the inflationary insanity that's coming, because even though, like I said, this whole Strait of Hormuz thing is a big dollar play in the background, at some point, the dollar does play second fiddle to Bitcoin, and it will only be second fiddle. Remember that, right? Bitcoin might become the world currency, but the dollar will still be like 1 through 5, right? It'll still be in the top 5 for a long time, whether it's Tether or it's USDC, whichever version, it's going to be number 2. Just pull up CMC and you can see, what's number 1 in volume every day? Oh, it's Tether. It's not Bitcoin. So the dollar will remain strong. Go ahead.
Those stable coins use dollars, right? And basically Trump is creating the petro LNG dollar, the petrodollar 2.0. So yeah, the demand for dollars will be high, and then use Bitcoin as pristine collateral for the dollars, for the new dollar system.
Yeah, I think before we cut out, I think that's what he's doing, right? He's creating an SDR of LNG oil, and then in the next couple of weeks, he's gonna be like, yes, we're building a Bitcoin reserve. So the US dollar has this amazing SDR that protects it from all of these other attacks that, whether it's a physical attack on us globally at, like on our sites, military sites, or it's an economic attack, which, China, Russia, and the BRICS nations have been going at it with us for many years. This new form of SDR that I think is coming is brilliant. And I am excited to hear about this news, because when they say the Bitcoin reserve is coming, and they pass it and he signs it into law, every other major country is next. It's Japan.
And then we also
India,
get those
Russia.
those famous Bitcoin bonds finally.
Yes, and the Bitcoin bonds are coming, right? There's already multiple companies figuring this out. Technically, since you brought it up, we'll just talk about it for another minute or so. Stretch is a form of a Bitcoin bond, right? Like, it is basically, he's paying a 10% dividend. It's like a micro yielding bond, right? So you buy Stretch and it's paying 11 to 12% on a dividend. So it's like, what? So if you have like $10 million, why wouldn't you do that? Right? Like, you literally just buy all Stretch and you take the dividends and you buy Bitcoin, right? Like that's the smart play if you're doing stretch, because then you have like this yielding micro yielding Bitcoin bond that's yielding you 10 to 12% every year. And then you're taking that and putting it into Bitcoin, and you're literally going to really stretch out your money to infinity. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, have a great one. Thank you for hanging out with us. I appreciate all the people on the live stream today. And this was Bitcoin doesn't need you for adoption. Take care. Peace.
Take care.